So I'm here to talk about agility at scale. I think a lot of times when we are considering analytics and how to move forward with them, we feel like there's a choice between being able to build it myself exactly the way I want it versus being able to proliferate across the organization. And I'm here to tell you, you do not have to choose. Because what I'd like to say is when we have people analytics in the organization, there is a huge potential to really realize some ROI. In fact, if you look at the Visier.com site, you'll see a lot of really incredible stories of companies that have been doing things differently because they made better decisions. So when you think about that, one person making one better decision can have an impact. But if you multiply that across the organization down to the people who make decisions every day, the managers, the HRBPs, the VPs in HR, the executives across the organization, you can start to have massive impact and ROI with people analytics. But I don't think we're realizing that. And in fact, that's certainly not the way the business feels. In fact, actually, with analytics, we are still actually not seeing trust by the organization in the numbers that are being brought forward from HR. But the need for insight is still going up. The demand is still there. So why is it that we're still not able to really push and create this people analytics capability across the organization so that everybody, every day, is making better decisions with analytics? And the problem is that analytics traditionally wasn't really built to handle HR. How many of you came from an analytic background that was not HR? How many of you were shocked and appalled to discover how horrible HR data is? Okay, not quite as many hands, but, or how many already you knew it and you decided to go for it anyway? Yeah, okay. Because BI is not meant for HR data, and in fact, it also is certainly not meant for scaling. And so one of the reasons why we haven't been able to really see inroads here is that when we try to do it the old way, it's slow, so we're not realizing that time for value, and people like, forget it, just HR doesn't really need that information anyway. We also lack the domain expertise. I mean, again, HR data is complicated. The life cycle of an employee goes on forever, and so many things happen. And how do you organize that data? How do you calculate the right turnover metric? Sometimes that insight just isn't in-house, or it isn't able to talk the language of analytics. And the analytics person isn't able to talk the language of the HR person. Finally, and probably most painfully, it always leads to a report backlog. Always. You're always going to find yourself having tons of reports to write. So what can we do about this? We don't really want to go the means of a traditional BI build. And in fact, if you look at this as just a standard BI project plan, it is a lot of work and a lot of risk. And in fact, this is a very unscientific breakdown. It is simply the number of steps that it takes at every point in the way to build out HR capabilities, even if you have a BI infrastructure in place. Doesn't take into account the amount of know-how you need to build the calculations. It doesn't take into account all the back and forth and requirements gathering with a community that maybe doesn't need to know how to articulate what it needs in a manner that you can actually work with. And the end of all this work, you still have no analytics. You actually have to start phase 2 of your project, which is building out all the reports that they want to see, which is more requirements gathering and more design work and more back and forth and more calculations. And you deliver them on your first try, the perfect report. Cue the laughter, because it's never going to be right the first time. You're going to have to go back and forth. And while you were doing that, you got a request for 12 more reports. And there you go. That's what you're doing. You're building reports. So that means that you guys who have all these brains and all these ideas of ways to work with the data and really do something valuable kind of get stuck in this never-ending cycle of analytics, of report writing, which is not very satisfying. But if you contrast that to a pre-built solution, when everything is already built for you, all the calculations have been worked out, the data model has been created, it's been built on the needs of hundreds of organizations, the calculations have been validated by experts in HR and analytics, and so really simply all you have to do is load in your data. The system itself has been tested, the infrastructure's been tested, we can handle millions of rows of data, so you just have to bring in your data, test it for yourself, and roll it out, and when you are done, you now have access to over 900 analytics. And in fact, that's not entirely accurate, because what happens is you get access to analytics with every single load you make. So you load in your organization data, boom, 100 of analytics. You load in your performance data, boom, and more analytics. Just continually rolling it out, you're going to have access as you go. It means you can have usable analytics within weeks. So ask yourself, if you were to walk into a new organization that didn't have any analytics in place, how long would it take you to pull together an analytic report with an accurate head count? With Visier, you're going to have the hundreds of organizational analytics available within just simply a matter of weeks. And those analytics are actually able to explore, to filter, to navigate. And that's really critical because it's never just one question that gets you to that better decision. There's always multiple questions. So you need to be able to explore that thread of data, to filter and ask yourself new questions. And my next question isn't going to be the same as your next question. It's impossible to predict what the next question is going to be until you've answered the first one. So you need a solution that allows people to navigate not one question at a time, but multiple questions that could be interacted with and explored. So that's why Visier offers a complete analytic solution from data in to data out. And we offer multiple solutions so you can explore various parts of your organization all at once. And we do all of that with an easy-to-use, intuitive tool that you can leverage downstream, a repository of clean data for data scientists to use, either within Visier or in another tool to do something more bespoke, and for your end users to use, empower your managers, your HRBPs, and your executives. Because we don't think you should have to choose between Agile and Prebuilt. We think you should be able to have it all. And that's something that Visier enables for you. So thank you. Did I even get to the 3-minute fingers?
Oh, you had 2 minutes left. So superb. Thank you very much.
Thank you.